What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. And just like I said in the last video, but if you haven't seen it, today we're doing the radiator, and while we're in there we're going to do the thermostat, just because I mean it was cheap enough. It was only like 15 bucks, and I don't want to get all the radiator in and get fluid back in there just to find out that the thermostat itself is bad too. And I mean, why not do it? I mean, it was only 15 bucks. And if I have to, drain the system back out, I'm gonna basically waste money, waste 20 bucks on antifreeze anyway. So, I mean, I figured why not. So, as you can see behind me, I got the brand new radiator, a little bit of fluid, antifreeze, and the thermostat, along with just a couple tools. This one isn't going to be much more than a 10 millimeter and some pliers, and some buckets to catch fluid. So with that said, I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to show you where everything is, and step by step we're going to go through this. My next car. Alright guys, so my first order of business is, as you can see, pull the cap off, and I'm going to remove the overflow line. And as you can see, my reservoir was completely full, and I'm actually draining it. All you have to do is pull the hose off, and as long as it's lower than the fluid, it'll drain out. So, and I'm trying, I don't want my sister to have to spend a ton of money, so I'm trying to save as much of the fluid and antifreeze as I can, because we basically went and bought fluid and put it in here and it just sprayed out, so it was just wasting money. So I'm gonna try and save the fluid because it's not dirty, it's brand new. And yeah, so I pulled off the line, got it drained out, and you have these two lines coming from the water pump, and then you have your lower radiator hose. So I'm going to disconnect these, and I have another jug down here so I can put it in there. Any fluid that comes out, I can catch it, and then hopefully there's not a lot that comes out of here. It doesn't feel like there's even any in there, so we'll see. They're just attached with these little metal clips right here. All of them. These two little radiator hoses, and then the big radiator hose, and just a pair of pliers on here. I like to use channel locks, a small pair of channel locks. So I got the upper radiator hose off. Now I'm going to do it where I just pull the fan off and slide the radiator out. So all I have to do is pull out the two top screws and the radiator shroud, or the fan shroud. They go in here, and then in the bottom there's just a finger on each side that goes down into a little, you see that little hole right there with the plastic that's coming off the radiator? That's actually where the little finger in the fan shroud sits inside. So it's just got those, just like a radiator. It's got two little spots that go down in a hole bottom, and then two screws in the top so it can't come out. But next I have to come in and I have to separate the AC, the condenser evaporator thing, from the front of the radiator, so that I don't have to disconnect any of the lines. When it comes to the air box, all you have is this one here. You have this. It's not like a regular hose clamp. You just unscrew it, it comes loose. Disconnect the mass airflow sensor. Sorry about the focus. Disconnect the mass airflow. Has one little clip that sticks in the side right here. Just squeeze the bottom with a pair of pliers. See how it goes? When it goes through, it just that expands. Squeeze it with some pliers, and then that's free. And underneath it has like this weird pop bushing thing. You have to, it feels like it's a bolt, but it's not. You just kind of got to pull it straight up. And then now I'm gonna get this piece off and it'll come right out. Alright, so as you can see, I got the grill off. There was actually a couple more clips than I thought there was. You have the ones on the end where you just put a screwdriver in and give it a little twist. These ones are just like guide clips, and then these ones, you see this little tab on the bottom. You got to reach in with something short, like a shorter screwdriver, because this you can't get in between, so it has to be able to get in between here, so you can reach and then push up to pop them out, because you don't want to be scratching up your grill and all that happy stuff. So you have 3 guide clips. These 2 you push from the bottom, and then this guy you just kind of stick it in there and pry, because as you can see, it's not really, it's kind of rounded, so you just, with some pressure, it'll pop out. Alright, so next you got to come in, pull the tabs off the top of the radiator, and then it's basically free. Once you do that, it's got 2 bolts in the top that go right through here from the AC condenser into the radiator, which you can see the hole right there. And then on the bottom it has a clip just like this. Just like, you see this piece of metal? That's the bottom of that condenser. And that little thing just slips through a little gap right here and sits in there, and then it bolts on the top. That's how almost all of this stuff is designed. As you can see, it goes right there, right in that little hole. So what you gotta do is hold the AC condenser and then push the radiator down. Or I just came in here and I stuck a screwdriver right in there and twisted it, and it just popped right out. Alright, now time to open the new radiator and slide it in. I'm going to go over each of these with you real quick. Now if you look, those lines right there, those are actually transmission fluid that obviously has a transmission cooler in part of it. And then coolant line, top feed, overflow. And then you see these little point, that's what sits in the hole in the bottom. And then it just gets bolted at the top. And I always double check if there's any clips or anything like that that needs to be transferred over, like that right there. From this side, the other side is actually broken, so I'm gonna go ahead and look for this other one inside the hole of the car. So I'm gonna get those all bolted in. And then I'm gonna get the top shroud back on, grill back in. Then I'm gonna start on the thermostat. So let's get to it. Finish this up, I'm just gonna go ahead and get this front bracket back on and grill back in, and then I could fill it. But since I'm doing the thermostat, we're gonna get to that next. I'm just gonna get these couple bolts, the grill on, and then this is all buttoned up, and then when we're done with that, we can fill it and we're good. So alright, all you need for this one is a 10mm and some pliers, and at least that's all I think. If we need something as we go along, I guess we'll find out. These rubber hoses, from all the heat, a lot of the time, and like the antifreeze and stuff, like minerals, it'll get stuck here. So if it's a small enough hose, I'll get my pliers on there, but be careful, because if you squeeze too hard, you could crack the housing. You just want to get enough grip to where you could wiggle it a little bit and it should break loose. If it doesn't, I just kind of do the side to side thing, and even then, if it doesn't come out, I try and get like a screwdriver or even like a pick, like a pick with a hook under there, just to separate the plastic from the metal and give it somewhere to move, because once you get a little bit of it to move on the metal, it'll just it'll keep growing until you can get it off, if that makes sense. I mean, growing in the sense that the spot that you got to break loose will grow. Now this should only be on here at about 10 foot-pounds. So when it goes back on, remember, it's going into aluminum, and aluminum block, steel bolts. You only want 10 foot-pounds. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it's sufficient, but it definitely is. I pulled the thermostat off, and that's where it goes. As you can see, it's only 3 bolts. And just don't lose the gasket unless you buy a new one. The thermostat I got didn't come with one. Now, the old one, I mean, should be fine. Actually, it was in really good condition. I'm just going to put a little RTV on there just because it's waterproof, and any imperfections in it are going to make it leak. So I'm just going to be extra cautious. So with that out, I'm going to go ahead. I already got the RTV. I already got the RTV on the gasket. It's sitting right here, cleaned. Now I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna put the bolts through this, and then I'm gonna put this on, and then I'm gonna slide the whole thing in and finger tighten the bolts. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. But what I'm gonna do is go around the bolt holes and make sure there's very, very thin layers so that it doesn't go inside where the bolt threads are. Alright, so now that I filled it, I have to go in and bleed it. Now the thing is, you have to let the car get hot enough. Now you see the little bubbles that are purging? Now the car, if you don't purge it, the car is going to overheat and it's not going to have heat. So you got to let it get hot enough so that the water pump will kick on. If it's just idling, it's not going to get hot enough. At idle, the car is efficient enough to where it won't overheat. So until you rev it up a little bit, hold it at 2 grand for a second, drive it around the block, it's not going to get hot enough for the water pump to pump fluid and then push the air out of the system. So you have to get it hot. It gets a little scary because you don't want it to, you know, overheat too much, but it's the only way for it to work. Now once that air stops and fluid starts, the fluid starts coming solid, and I'll be good. Now at first, it looked like solid fluid. In the car, it wasn't happening, so I almost thought the water pump was bad, but the car just wasn't hot enough. I think we're getting close. All right, as you can see, she's running. The heat's on and working again. She's been running. I took her for a ride. She's been running for about, I don't know, 30 minutes now. Temperature gauge hasn't budged. And she's doing exactly how she should. Alright guys, and that's another one down. It always makes me feel so good when I accomplish, you know, fixing a car that comes to me is broken, and when it leaves, it's running good. And you know, if you guys enjoyed it, be sure to hit that thumbs up. And if you want to see more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And till the next one, peace.